Andy Hamilton of Track Wrestling here in Ithaca, New York with Cornell coach Rob Koll in this state-of-the-art standalone facility you guys have here. Out in the hallway, I was looking at some of those older pictures, and I think to see what this has become is pretty fascinating. But rewind back to when you got here. What was this place like? What did Cornell Wrestling have at that point?
A couple of the things you say state of the art. When it was built 15 years ago, it was state of the art. Now, the great news is there's a lot of other places that are similar to this place, and maybe some of them better. So we need to make another adjustment and make it a little bit bigger, a little bit better. And then some of those old pictures that you see out there, now I'm in them. So that's even scarier, because this will be 28 years for me. So I mean, it's like the old pictures now. But yeah, when people come in here, this place is built on tradition. That's the alumni. It's 100% alumni donated, alumni and friends donated. There's not a penny of the athletic department that went to pay for this building, and it's built on the tradition that you see in that hallway when you see 100 and I mean, it's the oldest continuous program in the United States of America. Columbia claims it to be older, but they didn't have wrestling for a year or two, so we never ended. I think it was 1904 was the first year. We're missing it. 1903, it might be 1903, 1904. So it's a pretty amazing year. Obviously, those 1903 people aren't giving us a lot of money, but every year it gets a little bit bigger and a little bit better.
What were the biggest challenges that you encountered into building this into a trophy-winning, perennial top 5 program?
I always talk about when I took over from Jack Spates, my biggest challenge was my youth, and I was arrogant, still arrogant, but I'm a little older now. But I mean, I didn't know half of what I thought I knew, and he had done a great job. People say, "Oh my God, you really turned that program around." I said, "Yeah, I really turned it around. I took it from a top 10 program to a top 70, in just 1 year or 2 years." So it took me a couple of years to get my feet underneath me and figure out how to win again. I thought I could inherit his relationships, and I thought I had all the skill set that Jack had, and I learned very quickly that wasn't the case. So I kind of reinvented the wheel for a couple of years, and figured out how to get the job done. And a lot of getting the job done is mobilizing your resources, getting your alumni and your fans behind you, and making sure you have the financial resources to do what you want, to keep the coaches, the assistant coaches here for more than a year or longer than as long as they can find a better job. We find it may create a job that's good enough that they can build their life around. And with that came the recruits, and then we were able to build this facility, which made we got better recruits, and it was just kind of once you get the ball rolling, it really took off. Now I will say, people say, "Oh, it's easier to get to the top and stay there." It's absolutely not true. It's significantly easier to stay on top once you get there. Kids would rather come to a program and reap the rewards of people who came before them than be the ones who are going to build it for other future generations to enjoy the rewards. So it's a lot easier now because we're getting much higher level recruit.
Obviously, you got some big time lineup anchors coming back. Gabe Dean, Dylan Palacio, Brian Realbuto. What are the battle or 2 or 3 or 4 that you're most intrigued to see how they shake out here for lineup spots in the next couple months?
Oh my goodness, I don't want to. That's a tough one. Let me see. Well, wherever Brian Realbuto doesn't go, that'll be a heck of a spot. I mean, Brian now is putting his weight back on, so if he goes to 174, 165 will open up, and we've got just a plethora of talent, young talent at that weight class. I mean, I don't even want to mention all the names because there's so many good kids there. I'd have to leave somebody out. That's going to be a great one. Even a heavyweight, we've got Jeremy Sweeney returning national qualifier. We've got Owen Scott, who's coming back after he's been injured so many times. He's about 165 pounds. We recruited him as a 170 pound, 6'3" skinny little kid, and now he's massive. He's got one last year, but he's had so many injuries. Knock on wood, we're hoping he can stay healthy. That should be an interesting challenge. Let's see, any other weights? I mean, most of the other weight classes are fairly well established.
Brian had the knee issue there at NCAAs. Mark had some injuries that abbreviated his season as well. How have those guys bounced back?
Brian looks great. He's not wrestling full go yet, but he's doing everything else. I'd say he's about 75%. Mark actually looks really good. He's with a combination of injury, keeping his weight down. When you're hurt, it's hard to maintain your training, and he was banging up his weight way up, and now he looks lean and really ready to go. At 33, we're pretty shallow. Other than Mark, you got Chaz Tucker, who's fantastically talented. He just came in. He's got a broken hand, so he's going to be out for a couple weeks. We don't have a lot of depth in that one area, so we need to make sure that they stay healthy.
Obviously, you've had some special wrestlers here. Gabe fits in with those guys. What makes him unique, though?
Yeah, Gabe could be a three-time. Hopefully, we expect him to be a three-time national champion, one-time third place winner, and people don't. They should be talking about this guy like it's almost the second coming of Dan Gable, for heaven's sakes, and yet he's not, just because you've got Kyle Dake, working out with him. But Gabe is really special. He's a physical beast, but he's a great student. He's a great kid. You never have to worry about him getting in trouble. He's one of the hardest working kids I've ever had on the team. Once again, knock on wood, he's never gets injured. So it's just nice to have someone like that. The only time he went down was sickness, because I don't think he can break the kid's body. He's just made out of steel.
About a month and a half ago, there was the big story that we had from Jim Fallis with the Blue Ribbon Task Force. His recommendations, or some of the ideas that he's gathered. What are your thoughts on those, and the possibility of moving the season back a month or a month and a half?
Well, that's not necessarily just from Jim. That conversation I've heard maybe 15, 20 years ago, and every year since that we've had that conversation. I really don't know of one person that fights it, so I don't understand why it's even debatable. We need to move the season back. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. I think you need to reduce the season by about a month. I think the season's too long. I think that's one of the reasons our when you look at our APR, it's not great. There's a reason for that. Our season's too long when you're cutting that much weight. You have more injuries than other sports. I think that's because of part of the league, because of season, and then you would allow the freestyle season to be a little bit longer. I don't think we have as many injuries in freestyle, so it's not like the kids aren't going to be training. But if you look at almost any other season, it's condensed a little bit. You look at the soccer season, the football season. I mean, we could easily get rid of 1 month, focus more on the dual meet season, have a regular dual meet season, because we have a dual meet in November, and then we have our finals and our break and our Christmas break. We don't have another home duel until January. I mean, what other sport would have you start your season in November and not have another match for 2 months? It's just ridiculous. So we need to get rid of a month, crunch it down, so every weekend we're home or away for 2 months, and then have your tournaments. And have a normal season. And if you want to build consistency and continuity and a fan base, you're not going to do it once every month, a home dual meet. And we're not unique. There's teams that have 4 duels at home duels, or three home duels. It just doesn't make any sense as far as marketing whatsoever.